Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Mary. Today I want to introduce to you this book called Lee Jae-myung, Revolutionize the Republic of Korea. After having read this book 3 times myself, what first came to my mind was I knew that Lee Jae-myung, who is the leader of the current opposition party of South Korea, I knew that Lee Jae-myung had 4 criminal charges, but did I know how extremely and dangerously leftist he is? In his book, Lee Jae-myung writes all sorts of things, ranging from the U.S. withdrawal of troops from South Korea, shortening military service from 18 months to 10 months, and even the dissolution of large corporations in South Korea. And so, through this terrifying book, the reason why I'm filming this episode in both Korean and English, is because I really do hope that Koreans, not only inland but also overseas, and also the international public, the general public, the global audience as well, we all come to know of who Lee Jae-myung is, the true nature of Lee Jae-myung through this book that he himself wrote. And so before we dive into this episode, if you haven't liked this video, please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you won't miss another good episode. Alright, so to introduce to you this book, very briefly first, this book was published 7 years ago in 2017. 2017 was the year when the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye reached its peak. At that time, Lee Jae-myung, along with previous President Moon Jae-in, was preparing for the Democratic Party's presidential primary. And it was during this time when Lee Jae-myung wrote this book to introduce himself to the general public, what his policies are, what his ideology is, and all sorts of unwelcome things. But the problem is not only the existence of this book, the existence of Lee Jae-myung, but also that no one knew about this book. But very fortunately enough, about 5 to 6 months before the past general election, which was held on October 10th in South Korea, Pastor Chun Kwang-hoon, who is the head pastor of Saranjeil Church in South Korea, and who is an active political activist, these patriotic movements all across the country, he has brought this book to public attention. And that is how I too came to know of this book. And so I very much thank Pastor Chun Kwang-hoon for bringing this book to belated public attention. And the content of this book, I've read it 3 times myself, but to briefly summarize, there are 3 key points that Lee Jae-myung dives into. The first being withdrawal of U.S. troops. Second, federalized unification. I will explain what that means later. And dissolution of large corporations. And all these 3 are very against the standing foundational pillars of our country, which are liberal democracy, free market economy, U.S. ROK alliance, and Christianity-based nation building. These are the 4 pillars by which President Lee Jae-myung, our founding father, established this country. And Lee Jae-myung, the current leader of the opposition party, with more than half, basically the majority of Congress seats, his ideology, his policies are all against these pillars, which have given us so much prosperity for the past 70 years, ever since our nation was first founded. And this is a very big threat to the existence of South Korea, and we're going to explain why that is a big threat. And the last 3rd point that I wanted to mention, of which Lee Jae-myung talks very deeply and thoroughly in this book, is of dissolution of large corporations. He says on page 13, we must achieve a revolution for the 99% dirt spoons. This is what he says. And something that Lee Jae-myung and those on the left, they do a lot, is splitting our society into the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. From my personal experience, to refute what Lee Jae-myung says of dividing, the 1%, they're the gold spoons, and we have to achieve a sense of fair economy by taking all that the 1% gold spoons have and give it to the 99% silver spoons. My personal experience, I was born into a pastor's family, a very low income family, but I never thought of myself as a silver spoon, or as he literally says, a dirt spoon. And this I have to credit it to the fact that I was not surrounded by people like Lee Jae-myung, by these leftists, brainwashing me into thinking that the reason for my poverty was because of, the fact that I was born as a silver spoon, that I had no fair chance in advancing up the hierarchy of society. But rather, not being surrounded by people like Lee Jae-myung, but surrounded by people like my parents. And they always taught me, they strongly believed and did teach me that through good hard work, through sweat and tears, that one can be successful. And so throughout my middle and high school and college careers, I really did my best. I gave it my best in academics, extracurriculars, people relationships too. Meeting new people, building relationships, building friendships, and at the end of the day, I found myself with a full ride to university. And what helped me to bring my potential to its fullest was this mindset that, no, I'm not a silver spoon. I live in a country of liberal democracy, free market economy. The work I give it, as much as I work, the more I can reap. The more I work, the more I reap. That was the mindset that my parents gave to me. And not only this personal experience, but, looking at our country, South Korea, in entirety as a whole, our country directly challenges Lee Jae-myung's absurd negative expression on capitalism, on dividing our society into the gold spoons and the 99% silver spoons. As you know, South Korea, it started out as one of the most impoverished countries in the world upon the end of the Korean War. And in 70 years, it has become one of the world's top leading seven leading powers. It has become a true gold spoon today. And our country, the reason why it was able to achieve such prosperity in the past 70 years, which is a miracle, it's called the miracle of Hangang River, is because it was built upon the pillars of our founding father, President Lee Jae-myung. They are once again liberal democracy, free market economy, US-ROK alliance, and Christianity-based nation building. And so it has taught us that in such a country, when we protect these founding pillars of our country, anyone, through good hard work, through sweat and tears, can achieve and reap good harvest. In their argument against capitalism, leftists always bring up this idea of polarization. But we have to remember that polarization is a natural phenomenon in capitalism, and it is not unfair. Those who put in more effort, they get more. Is that unfair? Is that not equal? Is that inequality? To me, inequality sounds like a company that puts in a lot of effort, getting the same reward as a company that doesn't even work. Same thing in the classroom. I love this example. But, when studying for an exam, do we want a student that has prepared for weeks and months, and a student who studies 10 minutes before the exam? Do we want them getting the same grade? Is that the equality that our society wants? Absolutely not. If such a society does unravel in South Korea, there will be no student that will study through sleepless nights. There will be no growth, no creativity, no advancement in society. That's an absolute truth. It's common sense. But still, some people find a problem with inequality, and they always say that, someone who starts off at a better place, being born into a rich family, versus someone who starts off at a lower one, being born into a poor family, it's unequal. It's not equal. They talk of such inequality. But, for example, consider the pencil factory. I love this example. These are some of my favorite examples. Yes, the factory owner does earn more than the factory worker, and leftist people, especially Lee Jae-myung, they have a very big problem with, the owner seemingly doing nothing getting more pay, being paid more in income. They think that workers who do all the labor, all the toil, all the hard work, why do they get paid less than the owners? They have a very big problem with this, but I want to explain to you, if you too have such thoughts, how it is not really unfair that the owner gets paid more than the worker. First of all, the owners take more risks. The owners having even come to the point of being the owners of such factories, we have to imagine the processes that they've been through. They've risked all the money that they've earned into building this factory, and sometimes, yes, the factory goes through unexpected difficulties. Like, for example, the factory could be flooded through a rainstorm. The machine could have been broken down for some different reasons. All sorts of different risks that these owners have to take, and they've taken those risks. They've paid that cost, that high cost, and if the country goes bankrupt because the owner made a wrong decision, the workers, they just lose their jobs, which is, yes, unfortunate, but they can go somewhere else. They can get hired again. But this owner, they probably have millions in debt, hundreds and thousands of dollars in debt. That's the sort of risk that these owners have to carry. That's the burden that they carry. And so, of course, the higher the risk, the higher the return. This is an absolutely fair, I have to say, risk and return principle that anyone should not have a big problem with. This is an absolute fair way in how capitalism works. And secondly, because these owners take such risks, workers, they have a place to work. I think this is something very important that many people forget. If these owners don't take these risks, people don't get jobs. There's no place to work. And so, studying this topic, what came to my mind is that leftists make people think that competition is cold and cruel. But we need to remember that competition is what drives a free market. Psychological studies show that people grow only when they compete. And yes, failure does disappoint us from time to time, but when we lose competition in entirety, we lose the happiness that we gain, the satisfaction that we gain from the achievement, the accomplishment, the effort, the creativity that we gain through this hard toil, through the hard work that we give in. And I'd say the most representative example of this is North Korea. They've lost complete competition. They have no free market economy, no capitalism, no free market. And so imagine everything that they've lost because they've lost this competition. There is no competition, so everyone's poor. There is no cooperation, no coming together to work towards the same goal, no moving up the social ladder. It's competition. This competition, it's a foundation for human advancement, human growth, human cooperation. And North Korea has none of that because they've gotten rid of competition as a whole. No free market economy. And so that sums up the final point of what Lee Jae-myung says. And so as I end today's episode, there is a saying that comes to my mind. The saying goes, foolish citizens choose foolish politicians, and competent citizens choose competent politicians. The 3 points of this terrifying book, U.S. withdrawal, federalized unification, and dissolution of large corporations. I hope that through this terrifying book, that all South Koreans come to the realization, both inland and overseas, of Lee Jae-myung's dangerous leftist ideology in due time, so that we are able to protect our mother country at all costs. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you won't miss another good episode. See you next time.